I'm Diann Irwin, and I joined the fellowship in 1974. My late husband, Rand Irwin, and I were looking for a group of people so that we were really looking for a community, people to connect with, to do things with. We weren't really looking for a church, as it were. There were quite a few children. There were like maybe 40, 50 children and 75 adults, because there were a lot more children in comparison. But and when we joined, we were meeting in Hawthorne Road on the house. It was a large house, and actually within the first few months of our joining, they extended the living room so that there'd be more room for more people to sit for services. They took out a back porch and stuff to make that, because we went over and helped paint and get things ready. At the time when we joined, the fellowship was totally lay-led, and there was only one employee, and that was Renata Thompson. I think within a short time or thereabout, they also had a RE director who worked 10 hours a week, and Renata was the secretary, and she worked about 10 hours a week. As a result, and the house was paid for, we were in, and they were also, within, I think, 3 years of our joining, they finished paying for the lot on Wade Avenue, which is where the fellowship is now. So they had already purchased that lot. When we joined in February, nobody asked us anything about pledging. And I'd grown up in the Episcopal Church, and my father was often in charge of the pledge drive. So I knew that churches, asked for money. So finally, after about 3 months, I asked somebody that we'd gotten to know a little bit, how come nobody's asked us to make a pledge, to give any money? And people said, "You want a pledge? That would be wonderful." And so, we made a pledge. We were both teachers, and we were saving my salary because we were planning to have children. We knew it was going to cost a lot and that I wasn't planning to work. But we pledged $100 a month. Unknown to us, we were the 5th largest pledge. But when we pledged $100 a month, which seemed very reasonable to us, so that was really strange. But so you can tell the congregation. People pledged very, very small amounts. It really was nobody. Well, it didn't need money, and I think when they bought the land and things like that, people donated quantities of money. But the fellowship. It was very fiercely lay-led at that point. About 2 years after we started going, either in 76 or 77, sometime in there, there were 3 members of the congregation died. And one of them wasn't a member, one was the child of a member. A child of a member committed suicide, and 2 members died, very unexpectedly. One member drowned while fishing, and one member got like a virus similar like to COVID or something and died within a few days. So, and the board president actually lived right up the street from me at that time, and her daughter babysat us. And she said to me, "We can't handle this. We don't." I think they were the first deaths that had happened of actual people. She said, we're just a board of people. We can't handle this. We need a minister. They looked into a program, the UUA. I guess there were tons of fellowships about our age all over the country. And so the UUA had a program where they would give us 3 visiting ministers. We'd have one of them for 2 months, and then another one for 2 months, and another one for 2 months. And that was the 6 months. And I gather they were doing this at other congregations around the country. And it was to give people a taste of what it's like to have a minister. And they didn't stay in Raleigh for 2 months. They stayed a week of each of their months. 2 weeks, a week in each month. But they did 2 services, the one on either end. And during those weeks, they were available for, pastoral care or, any questions around finances, the congregation, things like that. And they led things like visioning sessions, so people would come in for potlucks, and we would talk about what we wanted to see happen to the fellowship, what our, and there was a lot of resistance in the congregation to getting a minister and to growing. At the end of the 6 months, we had a meeting and talked about whether to have a minister or not. And the majority of the group voted to call a minister, that we wanted to call a minister. But we didn't have enough money. I mean, after all, the pledging was very low, and so they had to, do a big pledge drive, and we still only had enough money to call a half-time minister. So our first minister was called, Frances West, and she was half-time, and she came, I think, around 78. She eventually, at the end of 2 years, basically went to the board and said, I either have to be full-time next year or I have to search. So she did. She searched because they didn't have enough money. So after that, we did raise, and she was really good, and people were really sad for her to go. After that, they raised the money, and Rand was actually on the search for the first full-time minister, which was Roberta Wood.
So you became board president in 1997. What were the challenges and the achievements during that year?
Yeah, well, that was the year Morris Hudgens left. He had been our minister for 11 years, our settled minister, or the longest time I think anybody's been a minister at the fellowship. And the big challenge was that we had an interim minister. And his name was Michael Boblet, and he was a gay man and a dynamic speaker. He was really, really good, entertaining. It was like going to watch a TV show to watch him preach. He had gone to drama school. He was really, really a phenomenal speaker. After about a month, we were full every Sunday, and we were jammed, and we were, it was just amazing. But the challenge with him that most people didn't know was, like, on his, I think, beginning of the second month, when we were started being so full, he started talking about, well, within the next 3 months, we're going to start. At that point, we were in the downstairs in what's Fellowship Hall. That's where we met. We didn't have the upstairs building yet, and we had tried a drive once. We successfully built the bottom part, and but anyway, so Michael says from the pulpit on a Sunday, in 3 months, we're going to start building the upstairs. Well, I was president of the board. The board hadn't voted on doing anything to do with the building. We hadn't had a congregational meeting. We didn't have a building committee. We didn't have anything. And I can't remember other things he said. But anyway, what I learned very quickly is I met with him every week. He was like, to talk to him about, well, we can't do this yet. We've got to go through this process, because he was all about, let's just do this. Let's just do that. Why do we have to, go through the process? It was just, so that was the big challenge. It felt like I was holding his reins all year. He was very enthusiastic, but I said he was a runaway train.
Was he a visionary? A lot of what he envisioned, did it come to pass?
Oh, it did.
It did, okay.
And I think, even when he came, he knew we were talking about needing to build the upstairs. But, you can't build the upstairs until you have a building committee and you have a capital campaign and, do all of those things. And we weren't quite ready, especially without a called minister. We were searching for a minister. And so that was sort of what we had to do then, was search first, get somebody. There also started, some of the YRE parents, a very small group, wanted us instead, the
YRE being the youth religious education.
The architect, I don't know if you've ever seen the whole design of our building, because it includes replacing the Peace Hall. And it will look like if it ever happens like that, it'll look like a chalice, because it has a curved roof too to go over there. So there was a group, not very large, but there was a group of YRE parents who wanted us to not go up and build a larger meeting room, but instead tear down Peace Hall and put all the money into doing a new YRE area. And some of them even wanted a gym. it wasn't a huge group of people, but there was a group of people. It was like, you don't value YRE, and that should be our priority. We had a lot of children then, and then there was another group of people that we shouldn't build. Now, again, these were small groups, out of a congregation then that was 400 or maybe more, a little more than that, like maybe 15 people here and 15 people here, and then we had another group. That other group did not want us to build at all. They said we should be putting our money into social action, that if we can raise this kind of money, we should be making more difference in the community with the money. So we had these two sort of vocal groups, but and I've always felt that maybe the building council we should have done some forums so people could talk this out more and feel more heard, but we didn't do as many forums as I thought we should do. At any rate, but we did. Anyway, we came to the meeting where we had the plan, the model and the plan, and we'd had somebody in the congregation had done an analysis of the finances for the next few years, and one of the things that analysis showed is that probably we'd have a couple years of deficit budget where we wouldn't have the pledges would not cover everything, but we did have money put away. I felt like if there was the vote, if people wanted to build, that other people would step forward to either give more money or we'd figure out ways to get more money, and that we wouldn't have that issue, or it would be a very small deficit, which is actually what happened. We did have small deficits of $8,000 for a couple of years, but any rate, so we had the vote, and it was a very large majority, like 95 or 96% of the people wanted to do the building, but the people who were really concerned about the deficit and also wanted to spend money on social justice instead, that group of about 15 people broke away and contacted the UUA about starting another congregation. The UUA had actually wanted to start another congregation in this area for a long time, so they were very happy to work with them. And eventually we gave them some money to help found the congregation. I don't remember how much,